Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. What is up? I am Charlie Shrem, and you are listening and watching Untold Stories, where together, twice a week, we get to dive deep with some of crypto's most influential leaders to truly understand how this movement came to be by bringing together all those early stories and weaving all these threads to really understand where we are right now and to know where we're going in the future. Web 2, Web 3, all these different terms we're hearing all the time, Bitcoin and crypto. Today, we have an amazing guest. We were kind of chatting before the show, and it was one of those situations where I was like, no, wait. I want to hit the record button because we're already telling so many good stories. Vitek, Radomski, thank you so much for coming on Untold Stories today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, man, you're the CTO of Engine. You're one of the authors of the ERC 1155 token standard. And Engine has been around since 2009, amassing over 20 million users. And what's really cool is you're a Bitcoin OG, and the company has been around pre-Bitcoin or around the early days, and you guys were able to completely pivot and turn your company into what we're going to see as the future. That's really a crazy thing to do.
Yeah. We started out a long time ago. I was actually building stuff with the current CEO of the company for about 18 or over 18 years now. I was a teenager. We were building websites and we were building, things for gamers, Flash intros, and all that kind of stuff. And then we created a company where we started, actually wanting to build a real, like, scalable system. Because what we saw is people were into gaming. They wanted to build communities, but everyone was putting together these kind of duct tape websites and things like that. So we created this platform called Engine back in 2009. It let people create a community, let people group together, make forums and chat and all that stuff people did back then. And that grew like really fast because it just exploded. Everyone would just create a website, slap on a theme, put all their modules together, and they had a whole community going. Um, but yeah, we built that. We grew that to 20 million users. A lot of people knew us from back then, but now in 2017 we were like, let's do something different, and we created Engine, and there's a lot to talk about. I think around the whole journey.
You come from the Vancouver Bitcoin community, and um, a lot of the communities nowadays are getting a lot of attention. Austin, Miami, Tampa. Um, I don't really know where else, but around the world, everywhere around the world. But there are a few places where, like Berlin, New York, Vancouver, San Francisco, to a small, but not until later. But some of these places where the crypto community, the Bitcoin community really start. What was the Vancouver community like? Because so many of my friends and CEOs nowadays and companies kind of came out of the Toronto and Vancouver communities.
Yeah, so it was really interesting being in the very early days because I heard about Bitcoin kind of through word of mouth. I was part of various kind of interesting communities. When you're in your 20s, you're exploring different things, different ideas, and I had friends in the transhumanist community. I had people interested in cryonics and people interested in all kinds of mind hacking and stuff like that. And one of my friends in the transhumanist community was like, "Hey, you should check out Bitcoin." And I downloaded Bitcoin, the Bitcoin QT software, tried it out, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool, but it's kind of why would I want free coins
I
from a
felt the
faucet?
same
That's weird.
thing. Like, who cares, right?
Well, you're getting free coins from a faucet, and it's like, okay, I get these random free coins. It shows my balance at like 2 Bitcoin. Okay, whatever. It's dumb.
It's
I'm
like you
getting
have to
free money.
download the software, and I think in those years, 2009, 2010, there was like a very aggressive push to do things in browser. Like remember Flash, dude. Speaking of Flash, not to take your story, there's a game that I love. So I used to play as a kid called Boxhead, The Rooms, but you could only play it on Flash. And I've searched everywhere on the internet, even the internetarchive.org, which maintains Flash emulators. It doesn't work. I want this game. My
I'm
friend Charles
so sad.
Hoskinson. What?
I'm so sad about Flash, by the way, because
What the
like
fuck?
there was this whole era. Like I was a huge Flash guy. I was animating like stick figure fights on Flash. I was making websites on Flash. Random story no one knows. The first ever version of Engine. We made 3 iterations before we actually did it right. The first iteration of Engine was like all Flash. And then we realized, oh crap, this is probably not going to scale. So we went into web. But like, man, it was a crazy time. Everyone was doing Flash stuff everywhere. Like engine, banners, all kinds of like apps inside the original CMS were all Flash, and they were cool, that animated.
What did Flash do for browsers and TCP that like the web couldn't do before? Because kind of Flash was Web 2 for our generation.
Yeah, well, like back then, HTML and CSS were really janky,
Yeah,
and you
so
had to
janky.
like you had to code for every random browser, and all the browsers did something wrong, right? Internet Explorer was the worst of them. I'm talking like back in Internet Explorer 4 and 5. Those were hell to code for. So Flash gave you this unified experience across whatever platform, browser, OS you were on, and you could do cool stuff with it. You could do animation, you could do programming in it, you could make cool things that like bounced around and moved around and had physics, and had like you can build whole websites in that. That was a cool time. But now it's all gone. You can't even like use Flash anymore. It's just been wiped clean.
Here's a good analogy though. I never came from I never thought myself as wanting to be a developer, a computer scientist, coder. Like it was so geeky and nerdy, back then. But when Flash came out, I remember like not even thinking twice. Just I forget. I think it was Macromedia Flash. Downloading
Yeah,
Macromedia Flash, purchasing the trial, of course, and trying to teach myself Flash. To a point, I even did a Shakespeare project for university, making an animation that I made in Flash. So like I feel like that's the same analogy of today of people wanting to do NFTs, smart contracts, crypto. They never thought they were programmers. They never thought they were economists or token economists or whatever we're doing. But there's something that's like kind of pulling us all into this or pulled us all into this.
I so agree with you, and I had the same experiences with Flash. It was like this playground. You could just do anything. It was like I wanted to make a cool physics idea. Let's do it in Flash. Let's see what I don't have to like code a full C++ program with OpenGL and all this crap to make that
Yeah.
happen. So like Solidity did that. Yeah, totally, for NFTs. You have a little idea. Let's grab Open Zeppelin. Let's put it together. Oh, now I have this cool this cool little idea, like a hot potato NFT or something. Now I can test it out on the world, and people are going to put money into it. People are going to like spread it to thousands of people, and the network effect is going to happen. That was really exciting in the Solidity space for sure.
Like the idea of just kind of computers talking to each other and being able to do things and you being able to release because you remember these games on like minigames.com and New Underground and all these places.
Newgrounds, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Newgrounds, yeah. That's what I was on yesterday trying to play this damn game too. I was at Newgrounds is still around. Ebaum's World, all these places. But the games were written by other friends in the forums in IRC. They were people like you and I. And to a point when Satoshi actually had come out with the white paper and was involved in the mailing lists and IRC, it was almost like he could have just been you or I. And maybe that's why so many people really took to Bitcoin in the beginning, because this wasn't invented by academics, Nobel Peace Prize, or brilliant. This was maybe some guy who failed out of high school, for all we know.
Yeah, and it was
Or
an
girl, yeah.
expression. It was an expression an idea, a really powerful idea, and executed through elegant elegant code and an elegant concept. And yeah, it grew. It was a network effect in its most pure form. People trying to make money, and both investing in the fundamental concept and in their own future. So that, yeah, Bitcoin went crazy like that. And yeah, yeah.
And here we are, like I would say, like phase one was and still is, because the layers kind of exist, was Bitcoin. Phase two, you can say, was, I'm not going to say Ethereum or altcoins. I'm going to say ERC20, because other blockchains and blockchain types had existed back then. But let's just say that's the type of token, the fungible token concept, or ERC20 as we know it today, even across all other blockchains. That was phase two. So now phase three. I was incorrectly attributing phase three to like ERC 721 standard, which is, for those who know, it's like the modern, what we kind of how where NFTs are built today. If you're buying an NFT on OpenSea or minting something, which 99.9% of us are doing, it's probably happening or being built or was minted on this standard. But what is the 1155 standard? And are there other standards? And what's the point? What's going on here?
Yeah, well, this all started happening. ERC20s got huge, and this was all back in 2017. Like it really just started exploding, and people started thinking about what can we do with this? What are the limitations of ERC20? I mean, ERC20 honestly actually has like a
It's like the dumb
fundamental flaw in
token.
it. Say again?
It's like the dumb token, but what it has a fundamental flaw, you were saying?
There's some minor code flaws in it which make it really, if they added like one function like increase approval to the standard or something, that would have made it so much easier to deal with anything regarding ERC20s. But whatever, it works, it's been adopted, it's the standard now. Now people were starting to think about what can we add. There was like, I think there was ERC223, there was like other kinds of fungible tokens. But then this concept of I was in that space talking with a lot of Bitcoiners and a lot of people thinking about gaming on the blockchain, looking at the very early gaming projects, like Hunter Coin and all those other various different games that were Spells of Genesis and things like that, back in 2017, and it really became clear that we needed more than just fungible tokens.
Still got Spells of Genesis downloaded on my phone right now.
Nice,
Ready to
nice,
go.
nice.
Love that
Yeah,
game.
so yeah, I mean, all those old things, they were trying to do stuff, but they didn't really have a standard. They were just sort of like hacking it up together as they go and making games. And I know Hunter Coin had like, it was just like bots like nonstop. It was just like run by the
Yeah.
bots.
You
Um,
could say that those tokens only attached value, but nothing else. There was no value holder. I was explaining to someone yesterday with the 721 the value of NFT is different on even who's selling it. Where the
mhm.
RC20 standard, it doesn't matter who is the seller, the token speaks for itself. But in the modern day, NFT token that we all hold, who the seller is or who the holder is, and so many other metrics or attributes or whatever are involved in that attribute to its value and like kind of like from that dumb token standard.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, ERC 721 definitely, took the lead in terms of like general NFT adoption. I think, again, because of the simplicity, just the situation it was in, it's really taken hold. But I would say ERC 1155, it's what we were working on as well in 2017. I put together a contract for games. I was like, what do we need to do in games? We need fungible tokens. We need the gems and gold and health kits and all that stuff. And we need
Serums
non-fungible
and the
tokens.
cloaks and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But we also need non-fungibles because every item inside of a game can evolve and be crafted and get points and things like that. Your gun can be upgraded and things like that. So I put together this interesting smart contract in 2017, and it had all you can. It was like a vending machine. You can make any kind of token with it. You can mint a non-fungible. You can mint a fungible. I was like, well, this is interesting. And back then, when I first made that, ERC 721 wasn't even standardized. There wasn't even a standard for that. CryptoKitties came out. 721 came out. We were like, well, we have this standard that we're starting to put forward to the community. Let's standardize this as ERC 1155. So thankfully, it was quite a success. We have a lot of marketplaces now around the world. Most of them support ERC 1155, just because it has some cool functionality that you can't do with ERC 721. You can build fungibles, non-fungibles. You can build this kind of vending machine concept where you're not deploying a new smart contract every time you need to make a different token type. And you can build rules around your whole ecosystem of tokens. So things like transfer fees or royalties or freezing or whatever kind of logic you want can function in your whole game or ecosystem of tokens. And we had some cool little technological improvements, that we made, like batch transfers. Somebody wants to send 100 tokens at once, they can't, right? So it was an interesting addition, and we looked at all the other non fungible ideas kind of floating around at the time, and it went quite well. So I mean, I'm glad to have made a bit of an impact in this space.
We had a guy on the show who has a cool NFT project called Bad Bears, and there's an ERC20 token and then a 721 NFT, 5,555 of them. So what I'm trying to understand is, and there's a relationship between the two of them, as most of these NFT projects have. What I want to know is what would be the difference if that whole ecosystem was built using 1155, ERC 1155, and then why should all projects like in the future? Because they're all going to be they're all going to be metaversey gaming. They're all going to have all of these communities are going to have media attached to them. They're going to have games attached to them. They're going to have clothing and merchandise. They're going to have huge parties, restaurants. I mean, nation states are going to exist around these things. I'm serious. Like cities, we're seeing it with city coins now, but that is the future. Everyone who listens to the show knows that is what's coming. So why can't yeah, 1155.
Well, I mean, honestly, if you're going to use ERC20, the benefit of that is you have, ubiquitous support in every wallet, every exchange there. If you want to make like an ICO, that you have a whole ton of businesses and platforms out there that will let you do that. If you want 721, you're limited to making non-fungible tokens, and you don't really have any method of like grouping them properly inside a contract. But you can make those non-fungible tokens and make your rare art pieces. But with 1155, what you can do is you can build like different categories of tokens. You can have limits on different categories of tokens. So let's say you want to make 100 limited editions of like a digital comic book or digital playing card, but then you want a new card type or you want accessories. You can have all that logic in that one smart contract, and your users on Ethereum or Polygon or BSC or wherever they're using these tokens, they don't need to start approving and doing all this difficult kind of friction
Yeah,
between all the different contracts. They
there's
can
so
do it
much
all
friction.
within one smart contract.
There's so much friction still, and that's a really interesting thing. And I think, uh, does this type of standard exist across other blockchains like Polygon, Polkadot, Cardano?
Well, so I like, we talked with some of the teams, and Binance, the smart chain, really just
Yeah.
took 1155, ported it over there, so you can move those tokens. But what we're working on for Polkadot, we're working on a new parachain, and we got a parachain slot number 6.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it
That's a
was
big
quite a
deal.
fight. The Polkadot ecosystem is crazy. I don't know if you
Yeah.
haven't seen what's going on there.
But crazy good.
It's
I'm a big fan of the project in the future. And they're founded by, Polkadot, Cardano, Casper, and one other one were founded by the former founders of Ethereum. So I mean, I just kind of love that.
Yeah, it's amazing how many big brains were in the Ethereum space, and they just all
Yeah.
offshooted and made all this stuff. But yeah, Polkadot is this concept of modularizing everything. So you want to build your own blockchain? Well, we have 50 modules to build your own blockchain, and you can build your own modules on top of that and bring your own innovation to it. So you don't have to start from scratch, or you don't have to go fork Ethereum to do it, right? So what we're doing for Polkadot is we're tapping into this idea of interconnected blockchains. I mean, Polkadot in itself is an internet of parachains, these little blockchains that have all the security of Polkadot, but then they have their own unique value proposition per parachain. And we want to create a token standard that will let people move tokens seamlessly across every parachain, be able to mint fungibles and non-fungibles, and do all that cool, fun stuff you can do with NFTs and stuff that people aren't even doing yet, easily without having to worry. Like, you want to send 1 million tokens over to Akala, go ahead, do that. You can do that in a very simple
That's so cool.
transaction, instead of all this friction difficulty stuff that exists currently with bridges on Ethereum and all this stuff. And then beyond that, we want to connect Polkadot with all other blockchains. So build those easy bridges into everything, and then connect that with our wallet and everything. So we're working on a token standard. We've put out an initial version, but we're going to making some major updates to it. We initially called it Paratoken Standard. We may change that soon, but essentially the concepts are how to make this super interoperable, how to make it super easy to use, and what can we add? What can we add to this token standard to make it work with the entire metaverse that's coming over the next 5-10 years? Like, how do we create a standard that people using any kind of portion of the metaverse on any blockchain or even in the centralized world will be able to bring their identity, bring their assets around, and have that security of them, but know that they are interoperable.
You said like a key word there. You said assets. Most people look at NFTs as just art, but really they are assets. And we're going to talk about that in a second. I want to understand play to earn as well because GameFi I think will be like really big. It has been in the last year, but even bigger in the next year or two. Um, but I want to give a special shout out to a few countries. Of course, the US, UK, Canada. You guys have had me in your top charts this past week or two. Thank you so much. But Israel, Austria, Fiji. You guys had me as like your number one podcast last week. Thank you. Appreciate Macedonia. Some of you other countries, I just want to give a special shout out because I really, Spain, Russia. Russia's been keeping me in their top charts. Portugal, thank you guys. Iceland, man, I'm coming back there. I know you guys are listening. I'll be back there too. And also, I got we got two 5-star reviews this week too. So thank you to Marianne and Rex Pop because your reviews feed my family. So thank you so much. And very excited. So you guys listeners, you guys have been following my wife's career. Super excited. She's going to be in another movie that's going to be shooting in Scotland next week. So we are taking Untold Stories over to Edinburgh. We're going to be in Scotland. I'm going to be doing episodes out there. I may head over to Peter McCormick's What Bitcoin Did podcast, but he brought a soccer team out there or football to the rest of the world, and he's going to be and he invited me over to a match, so I may go do that, visit some other friends. So I'm really excited. Thank you guys for listening. Yeah, I love the listeners. I mean, I love everyone. All right, so play to earn has been getting a huge amount of flack in the press lately because it's believed that it just won't work. Like the concept of rewarding users for not just like playing a game, but even in depth of that, like you know, transferring that from game to game, metaverse to metaverse, but that identity built in, rewarding, have potential ad tracking, things like that. They say that it's just going to be gamified by bots. Are they wrong, or do you think this can work?
Well, this is going to be a big conversation because I think this whole drama around NFTs, gaming, play to earn, is I think a symptom of sort of, I hate to say it, but kind of lack of imagination, or the difference between looking at what's here now and what the potential is of the technology. And so people look at the early attempts of, let's say, AAA games to to use NFTs, and they go for the low hanging fruit, like, oh, we're gonna sell some NFTs and see how that goes, and then everyone throws a huge fit. It's like, oh my god, you're gonna destroy gaming. Everything's gonna be nickel and dimed now. Our
Yeah.
favorite games are gonna be all ruined, right? But I think that's actually just like a hardcore section of the gaming population that very afraid of losing that sort of gaming, AAA gaming stuff that's happening.
Vested
Uh,
interests.
yeah, but honestly, look, there is room for everything, every idea in this space. I mean, gaming is an entertainment medium. You will have, pure Axie Infinity, like play to earn, crazy, games that just fuel themselves on that. But then you're going to have new ideas come, and we talk to a lot of gaming companies. We talk to a lot of indie developers that have really crazy ideas, and then we have AAAs. We're talking with multiple AAAs that want to do this in a responsible way, and they've seen what gamers have said, right? Like a company makes an announcement, oh, we're going to do NFTs, and everyone freaks out. So like, how can we do this in a way that's not going to freak out our audience, and like, how can we do this in a way that maybe will create an interesting NFT strategy, bring some new forms of gameplay into our game. So the game developers and publishers, they're thinking about this. Now it depends, every company is different, right? So some people just want to do, sell a few $1 million of NFTs, make some quick money, get people some skins.
That's
But
like
then
what they
some,
all want to do, by the way. Like every company, a lot of these companies that come across my desk, that's like first thing I think cash grab.
well, look, game development is incredibly hard. And you look at how many games are being created, and even like just the AAA or like the quality graphics versions of the games, it's like a small slice, because like I think there's like a million new games being created every year. Um,
Oh wow.
Now the small slice that are like high quality looking games, and then only a tiny fraction of those turn out to be like fun and enjoyable and outstanding what feedback on Steam or whatever. Um, so it's really hard to make a game. It takes so much money, so much resources, and a special type of mindset to create fun, addictive, emotional experiences inside a game. Now, you can't just take any team and say, well, we're just going to, throw crypto together, throw some graphics on there, make a game. Um, you know, Crypto crowd are going to make crypto money earning kind of tokenomics focused games because that's what they know. And I think those are going to attract those audiences. I personally, I've played some of the games. I've jumped into them. Bought an NFT, traded it, whatever. They're okay, but I'm not going to be doing that as like my fun. Kick back on the couch and play Axie Infinity is not really my cup of tea personally. There's people who do that. I think they're more kind of like a trader, or they're literally working to make their money in like a game like that. But that is just a small microcosm of what's possible in gaming. I think this technology gives you some fundamental things that you have never existed before, like just the fact of owning your own items and owning your identity. I mean, people actually don't realize how critical that will be to the next decades of where humanity goes. And I think having that power, and then having all these on-chain deterministic things like you being able to sign NFTs or put metadata on chain, or have a history of what happens with NFTs, or collaborating with other people who have NFTs. What does this do? Well, think about it. You have your consciousness, your identity in the physical world, but you're interacting with this universe of people on the internet that's growing. This metaverse of products and games and experiences and VR experiences and social networks. You're interacting with these places. But what's happening with technology? We have bots. We have GPT-3. We have deepfake. We have people that are just farms of people doing stuff inside these worlds, just farming things. What is important? Like, what are you going to be doing? You're spending your time in these universes. You're spending your time in this huge digital world. You need some concept of your identity. You need some concept of your ownership, because what else matters? Otherwise, you're just going to be competing with bots for everything, right?
People spend decades trying to learn their purpose, trying to achieve their identity, trying to figure things out. And a lot of times, small little things in life like add up and build up to who we are today. And so kind of the way we used to say as kids was things would be online. Is that what you're saying? Is that we're just gonna like everything's gonna be on chain?
I think it's going to be necessary because, like, again, you need some concept of like this is the scary part of this world. Everything is becoming disposable, and everything is becoming easier and easier to create. I mean, back then, making Flash intros we were talking about, you
Yeah.
still had to put like hundreds of hours into the Flash and like put a lot of energy into it.
Yeah. I used to make Flash intros. I remember now. Yeah, I made
Yeah.
some Flash intros. I probably still have them somewhere.
Yeah, I have them on a CD, which is probably going to lose its bits soon because it's so old. But yeah, like music. People used to have to like chop up drum loops, and like I was reading an article by like Votek, who was like an early DnB producer, and he would like painstakingly make this music. He would spend a year making an album, and people would release an album, and it's like, oh my god, this is like mind blowing. This changed the music scene. But today, like, people don't care. Like, music has changed. It's like disposable. Like, people are just releasing tracks, like millions of tracks every nonstop, and everyone's a creator. It's really easy to make something that's actually quite high quality. If you want to make you want to make a drawing, you can just like get a bot to do it for you now. It's like, sure, you won't get amazing results still, but it's going that way where anyone can easily create. I mean, everyone has a Wacom tablet inside their iPad now as an artist, and
True.
before it was limited. It was like, oh, you have a Wacom tablet like 10 years ago? Oh my God, like that's expensive, right? Or that's like, it's really rare. So everyone had to put a lot more energy in, and then your creation was worth so much because the community would see that. You'd get that dopamine rush, oh, I've created something in the world. But now it's everyone's a creator and everyone's putting out content. And again, like, what does blockchain bring to this? What are NFTs bringing? You have this identity on chain. You can collect your assets, your time in this digital world. You can build something on that digital identity. And I think that's going to be crucial because of this ever expanding network that makes you feel like you're lost.
It's so true, and I don't like feeling lost. It's good to kind of bring it all back together and being able to kind of. It seems like this idea is the next level. You've built in all of these things that allow for a much smarter identity or token or digital identity, if you will. Um, you have so let's talk about Affinity, which is one of your projects. Explain Engine Coin and how it's basically built into the NFT itself, which provides them some reserve value.
Well, yeah. So we came to this concept in 2017 where you know we realized everyone's just going to be creating infinite NFTs, and what can we do to kind of bring this network effect around the NFTs and also provide some kind of value to them initially. So like we said, okay, well, if somebody's making a new game, let's build this concept where you can put engine coins inside every single NFT that's created. Now, people buy into the game. They know that they have an NFT that has, let's say, back in the day, people were putting like 500 engine coin inside a thing that they sold for like, 20 bucks. And now, if the game succeeds, amazing. You're using your item, the NFT has utility and all that. But if the game wasn't successful, you would still have this growing network effect of that engine coin token that is spread across all these different games. So you can melt your item, or you can just keep it and use it for its utility. So that was an interesting concept. It was the first of its kind to put a token infused into an NFT. It's kind of like thinking, you buy a piece of jewelry that's made of gold. Well, you can melt it down for the gold. You
Yeah.
have any physical item in the world. You can have some other intrinsic value inside there instead of its
No, it's
form.
actually a very human thing. Like when you value businesses, like you look at the hard assets. Like if the business were to
Yes.
fail, what are the value of the assets? It's what's the value of your land if your house burns down? It's kind of like a very human thing. So you're just putting that extra human attribute into that token. I like that.
Yeah, yeah, and it was kind of like ideas from like the gold standard, but it also it really plays on Metcalfe's law and the network effect, and then we saw that with the early engine CMS just exploding, and then this network effect of the engine coin ecosystem supporting this idea, but then letting the different projects, the different games, kind of battle it out, see how good they do. Some of them are going to be worse, some of them are going to be amazing, and then but the whole ecosystem grows through that. And different projects bring different aspects. Some are really good at marketing, some have amazing tokenomics, some have amazing graphics, and they're all building that engine ecosystem. So that was that idea, and it turned out pretty well.
You have this, you have, let's just, you have thousands of different, I'm not even going to say games, but metaverses, games, even actually, OpenSea has a great way of how they categorize NFTs. It's a good. It's I was like they actually have one category, it's utility. These are utility NFTs, and these are art and they're fun and whatever. So you have all these different identities. We'll call them domains because
Hmm.
that's what the guy from Unstoppable Domains, Matt, he calls them domains, not identities or NFTs because they are. And domain implies so these are domains. You have millions of domains across millions of these different games, platforms, blockchains, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously, it's like you come down to the cup of coffee situation. I'm not going to pay for a cup of coffee with Bitcoin because it's going to take to pay that whole block. Same thing with Ethereum. If you have all these different people playing all these different games, doing all these different things, the Ethereum blockchain is already dealing with scaling issues. How does the engine deal with kind of in real time, but you don't need that value to be millions of dollars, right? So how do you guys deal with that?
Well, yeah, this is something we knew from early days. I mean, we even though gas fees in the early days were like 1 gwei or sometimes even less, I think.
There was
We
nothing.
knew this was
Ethereum was
gonna.
free.
This was
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was like yeah, pennies to do something. But we knew obviously, look, it's a limited, blockchain's growing. We saw how big Bitcoin blockchain was, while Ethereum now is, growing massively. And the amount of users that go into one blockchain, they're always going to affect that cost of using it because it's a limited resource. So we started thinking about how to tackle this. We initially spent like a whole year on state channels and layer two, and we realized, look, okay, we can build layer two, and that could have went really well, but realized, look, we need to tap into like an existing ecosystem and actually go a little further than just a layer two that lets you, trade thousands of items fast. So we investigated and we found Polkadot, and we realized we have to build a parachain on Polkadot. It was clear that we need a custom blockchain that is focused on NFTs and all kind of gaming metaverse type of tokens, and optimizes for those like low value, let's say $10 items being moved around, those crafting inside games, even just literally picking up gems off the ground, or shooting a missile in a game, which is literally an NFT that you spent some money on. But like, doing all that kind of stuff. And how are we going to do that? Ethereum is just not going to work. I don't care if they're going to shard it 64 times or do whatever. It's still going to cost too much. And it's the fundamental way Ethereum is built. It's a great breeding ground for different experiments and smart contracts. But by giving you all that flexibility, you lose performance, and you have to have all these different security things tacked on, approvals, and mistrust of every other smart contract. What we're doing with Efinity is we're building a core where you have these Lego bricks where you can, easily mint any kind of NFT you want. It can have various policies on it that are pre-baked, so it makes them super fast, super efficient. If you want to make a token that has a limited supply, or has various transfer fees, or has different things, bottoming curves, you can do that in a very like cheap and efficient way on Efinity, but then have the platform to build more around that. And we like, philosophically, we actually want to move a lot of the logic to the client side instead of having it on chain. You can do a lot by signing things on the client side, and then when it's all signed by the appropriate parties, you have like, we have this concept, for example, you have somebody who pays the gas. It doesn't have to be the guy who owns the token paying the gas. It can be the game developer paying the gas for the user because they know they're a valued customer. It can be their friend or some free gas bot or whatever paying the transaction cost for that transaction. Then you could have, if you own a token and you want to do something with it, like you want to craft it, you might need the game developer to sign that you're allowed to craft an item in that game, right? So there's this kind of division of responsibilities around tokens where we want to have that pre-baked. We want to have that super fast and efficient, so you can do that for large scale applications with millions of users and take up like no space on the blockchain, and let it grow.
Could a government launch a blockchain where, or someone launch a blockchain where like the tokens themselves are freely tradable, like not, censorship resistant completely, but the gas is like sanctioned, or some sort of like where the gas is like released by the government, or there's some sort of like, I don't know, there's so many cool wargaming ideas that no one does. Like, why has no one ever done Monopoly on the blockchain, or Risk, or the games we played as kids, or even create a nation state, like a nation
Mm-hmm.
state game where you can be born and kind of like accelerated school and earn an income, and kind of like token economics, kind of like do that. I don't know. There's so many things that no one's doing yet. It's still so early. We have
If they have, then they're probably, they probably don't like. There's various ideas being thrown around in blockchain gaming. A lot of the time, they're not executed as well as they could be because
mm,
of lack of game development experience or whatever. I've seen, honestly, yeah, I've been talking about this stuff for about 5 years now, I think, in the space, and every like idea we've thrown out has turned into a startup. Like and so like I'm sure somebody's doing one of
yeah.
these things, like esports, or like a whole bunch of startups. Like there's like, oh, signatures by famous celebrities. Just found out yesterday that was a startup, and that was a whole blockchain project. Like so yeah, like the thing is, we need to bring this to the mainstream in an easy, accessible way. And with Efinity, what we're trying to do is make it so frictionless that your dad can pick it up, go into some game, and just like be able to experience it without having to ask you what's this private key, what's this,
Yeah.
how do I get gas, we're trying to make it super seamless. The vision here, you go into whatever experience it is, a social network, a metaverse world, a game, and you don't even realize you're using blockchain. You have an identity that's created for you. You have assets that are being sent to your virtual identity, and then you can then take over that identity when you understand what it means. And you don't even have to worry about gas. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff, because your presence there in that world is valuable for the world builders. So we want to make that easy to translate for the mainstream audience.
Say that again. Just your mere presence itself is value.
Yeah, I mean, what do we care about? We care about human consciousness. We care about human experiences. We care about having our impact on the world. And the world is increasingly digitized. Even people who reject, metaverse, this is far, this is not going to happen. They're still taking part in the metaverse somehow. They're using Alexa, or they're using, their stuff that they're buying is all digitally tracked. And so we're all going to be part of the metaverse, and we want to ensure that we can provide, we can feel like we're valued by the world, and we can provide our value, and we have some control over our rights and our freedoms in the entire digital space. Because the world is, obviously many different countries, many different philosophies, many different politics, all around the world. We have to, in the digital space, all those barriers are pretty much broken down. And let's not kid ourselves. People can break past the firewall of China. They can break past anything.
Yeah.
They can participate in the general digital economy. These bans by governments are not going to work. But we want a space where you can choose the blockchain you're part of because you believe in its laws, in its philosophy, in its code by law. You believe in the network. You believe in whatever's happening on that blockchain, and you want to live in that space with those rules. And a lot of the blockchains, they give you the right to own your identity, own your assets, own your crypto, and people can't take it away. Some of them, sure, somebody can take it away. Some of the currencies, will actually be centralized, and governments can, maybe you want to live in that space. That's perfectly fine. But we want people to
You may have
that.
no choice. Like we're all going to live in nation states. So you may have to, and that will be okay. Like governments will be comfortable with like state currencies, and then you'll have like, global non-state currencies, and the state ones will compete, and they'll be a value to keeping your money. Who knows what the future is going to bring?
Well,
But
it's a
yeah,
change of society, honestly. Like it's a society changing world. Like I think we're in this weird space right now where we're all experiencing this. Like no one knows what's real. No one knows what information is real. Is the government lying to you? Are the vaccines safe? Are they not safe? Like, is there Russian propaganda? Or is there like what's happening? There's so much chaos, right? At
yeah.
least blockchain gives you some pretty damn secure, knowledge that you own you own the Bitcoin, you own the NFT. My identity. If I'm talking to your ENS address, it is you for sure, for real. You have that stability there, and so I think that's really powerful in
I
this world.
agree. A lot of folks call it the fourth turning that started about 100 years ago, but I think it's bigger than that. I think that humanity goes through the we have internal clocks. We've created calendars, lunar, solar,
Mm,
Christian calendars. We have different religions have their different calendars, but I believe that every like thousand, in the modern day version of the year, because time is relative and how we calculated time years ago is very different than how we calculate time. Time is very relative. Like, let's remember that. But like, let's just say we look at the 1,000 year mark. Every 1,000 years or so, humanity goes through this like epic change, this like push
mm,
forward where we believe we're gonna like die. We're not gonna survive. Like, there's this belief now. There's like a survival, like with pandemics, but it started. I would say started in the year like 2000. In the past 20 years or so, it's been really, really intense. But that feeling, like you're talking about, but look back at the year 1000. Everywhere, all over the world, humanity was going through epic changes. Like in Europe, before the year 1000, we couldn't even build with stone. Like we were building thatched and wood roof. Like we couldn't even build stone houses, archways. We couldn't build them. But something changed over the next 500 years. So we're going
well, let's
through.
just talk about pandemics back then. Like they
Oh
lasted
yeah,
for hundreds of
1918, 100
years.
years ago.
Yeah, and even before that, like all those pandemics lasted like, I don't know, was it like the Black Death or some of those that were lasted for like 100 plus years? It was like, whoa, that was a rough time to live in.
So this is that time, and thank you for coming today on the show and bringing us through the journey. It's really exciting, really scary, but at the same time, we're gonna make a lot of money from it, and we're gonna have a lot of fun along the way. So Vitek Radomski, engine ERC 1155, so many different. Thank you so much for coming on Untold Stories today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It feels like we could talk forever. I
I
really
know.
appreciate it. It was really fun.
I'll see you later.
Thanks.